Afternoons with Baba. Dobrodošle. Ние се водим ке направиме Zelka Manja со spare ribs. Zelka Manja je много popular со македонците, много лека Zelka, and it's very nutritious for you. Yeah, you can make it with pork. If you have pork chops, you cut them in half, and you can fry them in your pot and then throw your cabbage in. Or if you have a piece of pork, you chop it up in small pieces, and again you throw it in your, you fry it in your pot first, and then you throw the cabbage in. But today we're having spare ribs, and the spare ribs have to be boiled. So we'll get on with it. I have a rack here, which we're going to do. If you find it's too much, if you're only 2 people, you can cut it in half, and actually you can bake it another time. But I'm making a big manja, so I might use this all. I'm not certain. We'll see now. Now you give it a nice wash with cold water, like this. And you know what? I think it does look awfully big to me too. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to cut about that much off. Okay, so here's a piece. I'm going to leave this piece for another time, and I'll have to put it away now in the fridge. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow, because it happened to be a large one. I didn't realize that it was folded under. When I bought it, I thought it was a small one. So you always have to make sure that you wash your hands, because when you're touching meat, you don't want to contaminate any other things. So here we are, stupa smo сега. И вака ки си сечиш по една коска. Ќе најдеш коската дека е, you find where the bone is, and you cut down. See, every bone has a lot of meat, so it's a nice piece. Do you see? So that's a nice piece. So we have a lot of nice pieces here, so I think I was right to take some off from here. Alright, so сега ги секол комарчина вака, и сега ки клајме у тенџерето, човек ќе се одема тенџерето за да ги спараме. Ама треба да си измиеш раците, да не кидаш ништо ако ти се раците со месо. Okay, it's very important to clean your hands after touching meat. So here's my pot, and now we're going to rinse it again. We will rinse these pieces of meat with cold water. Пазливо да се измиеш, има много миене кој ќе гибаш меса. Сега ќе наполниш тенџерето со вода, колку да е одозгоре на месото. You put enough water just to cover the meat. See, about like that. Once it's covered, like this. So now we're going to put it on the heat and wait for it to boil. We'll put it on high and it'll be boiling. You have to wash them very nicely. They say cleanliness is close to godliness. That's what I always say too. Okay? So we'll rinse this one. It's good to, I usually use a tray under, like this, so that I don't contaminate my countertop, okay? Because it's easier to wash this and make sure you have it all rather than to be smudging around on the counter. So I use this tray and I cut large pieces of meat on it. For vegetables, you don't have to worry as much. But for the meat, yes, you have to make sure you wash all the items properly. I have my pot here with 2 ounces of oil, and I'll put this on. I cut a green pepper lengthwise. And now I'm going to chop it into fine, small pieces, okay? We don't put an onion in this because cabbage is a strong vegetable, and an onion is a strong vegetable, and they're not compatible. Yeah. So I just do a pepper. You put a pepper in it. If you have a red pepper, it's just as nice because it'll give it some color. The cabbage is white, right? But today I have a green pepper. Now here's a little cabbage. I don't know why they're so small, but they are. But I think it's enough for manja. I usually like to take the top leaf off and just throw it out. But they've taken so many leaves off, so careful you don't throw too many because you need them for your manja. Now, if you find that this is too much, you can leave yourself maybe a little bit and make coleslaw with it. So we'll see. I think it's just enough. Now inside they have the root, which you have to make a V cut. Treba baka da oseči stroa, da izvaj što je jako. Ja, I bo tuka. Baka će napraviš like a V i ti si jo frliš. Jo frliš tamo. Sad tuka da dojme da i vide na Kipe kak se prže. Ja. Ja. Here we are. I think actually we're ready with this. We're going to put half a teaspoon of red pepper and saute that in because it needs to be in before we put our tomatoes. There we are. Okay? So we put about a cup of the tomatoes. These are the tomatoes that I've diced in here. So as you see, the peppers and the tomatoes are nicely frying in here. And I'll put a little bit of black pepper also. Red pepper, black pepper. Yeah. So you see that? So you just cut it in large pieces, not little, like that, okay? And we'll put half of it and see how it looks, but I think I have to use the whole thing. So you're sort of like fairly large pieces, not little, not like a coleslaw, okay? Yeah. Let's get this in there now and see. There we are. So, I managed to be all in there. I think it's perfect. Because kerucha meni jednata sa fluko I kemadam drugata za doma. So there you are. Ja, zelkata. Ама чекаме сега водата тука да се свари. So ќе затвориме оваа соба да почека тоа. So ja месото. Допајме на high. Океј, ќе му пајме сега троа пипер и троа сол. Half a teaspoon. Оти секој пат можеш да кладиш сол. И вака ќе ја изборичкаме. И unfortunately сега месото не ми е готово, требаше месото да се погоди прве. But вака ќе почека троа. Ја сега месото се свари и ко ќе пулете одзгоре има things to take off. So анди да озеваш троа по троа, јас ка што прам, извадам цело вака и изтурвам ваа вода and then му павам пресна, okay? See? Ваа вода не е убава вода, не е чиста. It's not clean water, that one, because it was boiling. So now we're going to wash this and get all of the stuff off of it, see? When you put it in the oven, it roasts and all that gets cooked. But if you're boiling it in a manja, you really have to do the meat separate. And I just do this because it's all over the pot, okay? And you still have to get all that off. You just go like this, wash, just sort of rinsing it, see? See all that? All that is coming out. There we are. So there you are now. We're going to put fresh water. And this water now is going to be the fresh water that we use for our manja. So it's going to boil a little bit, about 15 minutes. And then we're going to put it in the manja and join it together and make the manja. So again, see? Just to cover it. Not too much water. Okay? So I'll just give it a little salt like this. Robert. There we are. And this one has to boil now. So we're almost there now. So 15 minutes. So you go and have a cup of coffee now. And I'll call you back when I join it together and put it away for about half an hour to 45 minutes. Thank you. It's about 25 minutes later, and the meat has had a chance to get tender and cooked. There it is. So now we're going to pour. You have to be very careful. Treba da puliš koliko voda ke mu kladiš. Od zelkata je voda. So it doesn't need too much water because it doesn't soak up water. So you just want enough to make the manja. So here we go now. See, the water's clean. Our second water is good. And it's going to give us a nice pork taste through our manja. As you can see, I just barely covered it. Okay? Now we're going to see how it's going to happen. We'll put our meat on top for it to cook. And we'll see if I need a little more to cover the meat. Okay? Because that too has to be cooking now. It cooked a little bit, but it has to finish cooking with the cabbage. With the savari so zelka that tastes so good, right? Yeah. So here we are. We're putting in all our cooked spare ribs. Aren't they nice and meaty? Yeah, it should make a nice dinner. I'm going to send this on to my son, and I'll leave some for myself. I'm just one person. There we are. So, let's see now. See? You just slowly, so you don't spill it out of its container. Yeah. You bring some cabbage up. You let some meat go down. And periodically you do this, but as you can see, there isn't enough water, okay? So this is how you gauge it. Every time you do manja, it's different. You can't measure the liquid. You have to do the liquid according to your manja, because you might have less cabbage and you'll need less water. You might make it with pork chops and they're not as bony as these are. So now we're adding a little more because that meat has to also boil. So there we are. Okay? So it's all nice now. Let me give it a taste now. We have to taste it. Otherwise it's not going to be good. It has to have the proper salt. Right? Mm-hmm. So we'll put it on medium. It's perfect, doesn't need anything, because I had added salt when I was cooking the meat, and we put a little salt when we were cooking the cabbage. So now we'll wait for this to start boiling, and we'll just put a cover like that. Once it starts to boil, we're going to give it 25 minutes, but it has to come to a boiling point first, okay? So this is all our extra water, which we're going to keep here because you never know, you might need a little more water, right? So instead of putting in tap water, we put in this delicious water that we boiled our spare ribs in. So yeah. All right, so you go and you work along in your home and come back in about 5 minutes. All right, we'll check it now. Yeah, it's boiling nicely. So we'll give it a little bit. Be very careful when you do this, okay? When your pot is full, you have to be very careful. We're just trying to move it around a bit. Mmm, smells so good. I love Cabbage Manja, Zelka, see? So I think the liquid is perfect. We don't need any more liquid. And I shall just put it down just a little bit. It needs about 20-25 minutes now. We'll cover it up like this, leaving a little open for air. Okay, here we are now. Let's check our manja. Oh, there it is. Bubbling up. See? It cooked nicely. It feels tender. If it doesn't feel tender, give it another 5 minutes, but this one's okay for me. Yeah, cabbage is all water. It doesn't really take too long to boil. So now, remember, we sautéed a pepper, ispragimid la piperka trombaslense, 2 ounces of oil, and then we chopped up our cabbage and had it on the side while we added first a teaspoon of red pepper, and then we added our tomato, 1 cup of tomatoes. And because the red pepper has to go into the hot oil first to let its aroma come out. So after we did that, after we put the tomatoes, then we added our cabbage and we stirred it. Koi kladome tomatite, sedna sheturime zelkata, I zeme boraime. Ais boraime ubao, we did that. And then we took our boiled spare ribs and put them in, and this is the end result. So now we're going to serve it. So this basically is probably a manja either for 4 or 5 people. Yeah. There we are. There's the zelka and the pork. That's the nice meal, which you can serve with whatever you like. A hot pepper or other things. When you take it out of the pot like this, it's easier for people to help themselves. That's why I'm taking it out. But if you're going to serve it to your family, you can serve it directly from the stove. You can serve it into plates. But if you want them to help themselves, you have to serve it in something else like this. So they can see the meat, they can see the cabbage. Okay, there we are. Now we're going to pour some of the juice here, whatever we think is necessary. There we go. So we still have a little left here. So there you go. This is your manja to serve, and this is a serving of your manja. So enjoy manja, the cabbage manja. It's very delicious. It smells wonderful. I wish you were here. And I'll see you again. I think we're doing the lamb chops with spinach and rice next time. So we'll see you again. And goodbye from Baba.
Baba